Hey guys, welcome back to the My PHI Games History and Reviews. And today we are going to be doing a video about what a lot of people, like some common ideas that people think about the Civil War, American Civil War, which is actually wrong. So let's get right into it. So everyone, not all white people in the South owned slaves. Only like a handful of people actually did, and those were the big rich people and who own like the giant plantations and stuff. So not many people actually own slaves, kind of thing. And yeah. Next, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all the slaves. Okay, so Abe Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1864, 63, one of those 2 days. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he signed the thing. So, so its goal was it's gonna free all the slaves in the Confederacy, but it won't free any slaves in northern states or territories taken by all places already taken by American troops. Like so basically it was kind of like, hey, you're free, but you're kind of not. And so also like as an example, I'm kind of going to use the Holocaust for it. It's kind of saying that Great Britain does something like this. Says that I know I'm using a very dark topic. I'm saying that people in concentration camps are free, but they're still under the occupation of Germany. So it doesn't really, it's just like, it doesn't really do much. So basically, what it meant was that every time we take, so let's say if we take Memphis, Tennessee, um, all the slaves in Memphis, Tennessee are free, but but to get to Memphis, Tennessee, they need to go through Nashville. So let's say the Emancipation Proclamation was written, um, like, okay, so let's say I don't know when it was, but let's say the Union took Nashville, like, in November, before the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in January. Those slaves that were freed in November aren't free, but let's say if they take Memphis in, like, April, those slaves are free. So it really didn't. It was kind of like what they probably would have done anyway. It's kind of like, I guess, like a liberation kind of thing. But still, it didn't really free all of the slaves that a lot of people think. Okay, so USS Grant was not at Gettysburg. I don't know why everyone thinks this. He was not at Gettysburg. Uh, like, yeah. So this is USS Grant. At the time Gettysburg was going on, he was fighting in the well, well, while at the time Gettysburg was going on, he was too busy fighting in the Battle of Vicksburg, like clear on the Mississippi River, so west. So he was like nowhere near Gettysburg. The people at Gettysburg was General McClellan, and General Meade, one of the two. Uh, yeah. And I have a whole video about Gettysburg. I have 3 videos. This 3-part series I did last year, and it was so each part was a different day. So it was 3 days of Gettysburg. So the Battle of Gettysburg lasted 3 days, and so day 1's part 1, day 2 is part 2, day 3 part yeah. So you get what I'm saying. The Union did not have better generals. Like, the Confederates had Robert E. Lee, who is actually one of the best generals of all of history. He was kind of a mastermind of strategy. And so, like, Robert E. Lee, he was actually one of the top generals in the U.S. before he went to the Confederacy. And the only reason why he went to the Confederacy was that he couldn't fight his own people, which and they have Stonewall Jackson, who was like a mastermind at leading attacks and stuff, only get killed by friendly fire. And then you have Jeb Stuart, who was a pretty smart dude. So yeah, well, so during the whole Civil War, these three people would fight the the Army of the Potomac. So that was like basically it was the biggest force in the Union Army, the biggest army of the Union Army, and those went through like six people. Like you have General Ambrose, you have Hook, Meade, McClellan, and I think I'm forgetting one. But then it would go to our friend USS Grant in like 1864, 1865, because all those generals were either not the smartest people around, or they, like McClellan, he could have ended the war so many times, but he was too scared to push on. Unlike Grant, who, pushed on, used total warfare, and just, yeah. He was one of the first people kind of did that, so, yeah. So, a lot of people think, oh, everyone in the North supported the war, right? No, they did not. Like, there was even riots going on in cities like New York, mostly because of the military draft. And, they actually said if you can, the only way you can get out of the draft is if you make it was like a $300 donation to the cause, to the military. And people are like, that's how much I make a year, for Pete's sakes. No. So then riots broke out and things. Abe Lincoln was not a popular president. At the time, he wasn't. Because, first things first, like, a war was going on. He kinda started a war. I say kinda because the only reason why the war pretty much started is because when the southern states even said if he got elected president, we would break away. And that's what they did. But, but it's just like, even in his race for re-election, he barely won against General McClellan, who was running. So, yeah, it was a close race. He barely won. And it wasn't really until after the Civil War that people kind of realized how good he was as a president. And, like, even when he did the Gettysburg Address, he wasn't the main speaker there. It was some dude who was known for making speeches who can barely last 2 hours without going to the bathroom. So, yeah. So, our next one is more people died off the battlefield than on it. A lot of people think more people died on the battlefield, and that is a no. Mostly because you had these makeshift hospitals. They didn't know that bacteria existed. And like if you got shot in the arm, it was like, okay, we're gonna amputate your arm, and they pretty much used the same saw that they use for maybe your friend named Bob, who had the surgery before you, and they don't give you like any like they don't numb anything. They just go like, hey, here's a stick, bite on the stick, and we're gonna cut off your arm, kind of thing. And most of the time, this is either done on a table or a door that they took off, or maybe just on a field on a cot. So, yeah, it wasn't the best thing. But then also, you had these very poorly maintained Confederate hospitals. I meant not hospitals, but then you also had poorly maintained prisons. Like, disease just, it was like a, carnival for, viruses and bacteria in those places, and a lot of people died in those prisons. A lot of people don't think this, but a lot of Confederate soldiers were honored after the Civil War, mostly because, they were Americans too. They still risked their lives, and mostly the only reason why they're fighting because they're getting paid to shoot guns, and who doesn't want to be paid for shooting guns, kind of thing. So basically, and so they're getting paid to shoot guns, and it's just a lot of the people who did fight. Not many slave owners even fought. Well, most slave owners fought, but they're mostly high up rich people, and they didn't really fight in this war. It was mostly average people like us who fought in this war. And it would be like poor farmers, peasants, and people who probably never left their home state in their life, or even probably never left the town or city in their life, and people who barely paying the bills, kind of people who fought. So that's why a lot of them were honored after the Civil War in parades and stuff. And no one cared that you were on the bad side. You fought in the war, and I mostly think the reason why they're honored so much is mostly because it was at the time it was like one of the most deadliest wars in human history. Okay, it was like a bloodbath. Like you couldn't walk like a foot without stepping on a dude, like in any field. So just the fact that you survived the war is yeah. So I know this is pictures of Revolutionary War soldiers, but I couldn't really find any other pictures. So, like during 4th of July parades, now that there'd be like that truck drive by or that float, and there's someone's like a World War II veterans on it, kind of thing. It was the same thing as that, but it would have been both Union and Confederate soldiers. They were celebrated actually up until the 1940s, when they what was kind of happening right now with World War II vets. They started dying out. And then even more recently, a body was found in a creek at Gettysburg, and it was a Civil War soldier. And I don't know how they identified as a Civil War soldier, but they didn't know if it was Union or Confederate. But they didn't care, so they still buried it in military honors. Like I don't think people really understand that it was Americans fighting Americans. That's probably why it was so bloody, because people who love guns versus people who love guns, and it was just but yeah. So then even like when a lot of Civil War generals died, most notably USS Grant had the six pallbearers, but on one side was all Union generals, and then on the other side it was all Confederate generals. So even after the war, they all everyone got along with each other. Now no one does. It feels like, uh, and then also you had a boatload of monuments and things, kind of thing. This is actually the only picture I could find that was not graffitied. So yeah, and then also the biggest monument carved into a mountain is actually this. It's not Mount Rushmore. It's this. It's in Georgia, and depicts Confederate generals. Okay. Next, we have Lincoln was not an abolitionist. So he he didn't support slavery, but he wasn't, he didn't really care about it, but he knew it was bad, but he wasn't a diehard, abolitionist. But when the Civil War kind of started, he's like, hey, I can, not, kill two birds with one stone. I can, restore the Union and also get rid of slavery at the exact same time. And that's what he did. So, yeah. Also, a lot of people think the Union lost more battles than the Confederacy, but it's wrong. It's the other way around. The Confederates lost more battles. The Union, they just didn't win the biggest battles. They they lost a lot of major battles, but there's a lot of small ones too. Little small skirmishes and stuff. And they won a lot of those, but they didn't win a lot of the bigger ones until after Gettysburg in 1863. Next we have, so out of the 3 days at Gettysburg, they're all pretty deadly, but the deadliest day, they were not the deadliest days of the war. The deadliest days of the war was in a battle called Antietam, and the Union lost that one. Yeah, so that was actually the deadliest day of the war. Arlington Cemetery was created in the Civil War, but it was actually a revenge plot. So if you've ever been to Arlington Cemetery and wonder why is there a big house in Arlington Cemetery? Does the caretaker live there? No. It was actually owned by a dude Robert named Robert E. Lee. If doesn't he look very familiar? So basically, after he went to the Confederate side and after the war kind of started, the military cemeteries started getting full. So they're like, hey, we need a new place. Well, just looking across the Potomac River, there is Robert E. Lee owned a house up there, and it was on a big plot of land. And now, since he was an enemy, during the Civil War, like Alexandria, Georgetown, they all supported the Union cause, kind of thing. So, and also once the war started, they got occupied just like that, because they're just right across the way from the Capitol. So, most of them actually supported the Union side, but, so they went and buried 21 Union soldiers on his land, and then everyone's like, they just buried dead people on our land, so they just kind of abandoned the house. And Robert E. Lee actually never came back to his house up there. So, yeah. So then, yeah. So it was kind of a revenge plot against Robert E. Lee. So now here is the last one. Everyone thinks this is the Confederate flag. No, it's not. This is the flag that Robert E. Lee flew. This was actually a military flag. It was like, so you know that. Sorry for the interruption. So I was saying this. Okay, so you know how we have and all the branches of the military have a flag. You have like the Army's flag, the Navy's flag. This is the Army flag of the Confederacy. And this is what Robert E. Lee flew. This was his battle flag. And I personally think it's a pretty cool flag, that's all I'm saying. Like, I think it's cool. Not as cool as, Old Glory, the US flag. I think it's a cool flag, I'm just saying. But yeah. So this flag actually became popular in the 1940s after some Southern senator was running for office, and people just started bringing this flag to his rallies all of a sudden. So now here is the one of the Confederate flags. Boom. This is the first Confederate flag. Yep, this is it. Yeah, looks very similar to our flag. And that's why they changed it. They changed it to this. Okay. You can see the Confederate flag, because by this point it's pretty famous, because Robert E. Lee was winning like every battle, like with his eyes shut kind of thing. And they switched it because from a distance, this looks like a surrender flag. So they changed it again. They changed it to this. Yes. They just added a red stripe on it because, like at this point, like they were losing the war. No one cared. So they just put a red stripe on it. So, problem solved. Now it doesn't look like a surrender flag whatsoever. That's kind of weird how I'm just going through the slides and it's just like, ooh. That's just weird. I don't know. Like, this can entertain me for hours. But yeah. So this is a quick video, a 20-minute video, on about some things that we think about the Civil War, but it's not actually true. And yeah. So, if you like this video, I have a lot of other cool Civil War videos. I have a handful of them. So, actually, this is actually part of a new kind of series thing, which is actually gonna talk about. No, it's a history thing, but as I said, I'm gonna start remaking a lot of my old history videos, like 1919 Omaha Riot, the Stalinism video, the Red Ghost, and the U.S. Camel Corps. They're all gonna have new videos, more updated videos. Definitely 1919 Omaha Riot. Like I've learned a lot more since. So now we're gonna have like a more better video on that. Personally, I think it's gonna be the best video on it. And I'm gonna have a lot new. Well, I'm going to remake a lot of old videos, but I'm gonna have a lot of new ones too. So I have a lot of new ones planned out. And yeah, so if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any comments, complaints, questions, answers to questions, put it down in the comments below because I read every comment and respond to it. Except if it's like some random thing, like this one guy just keeps like every video post, like loved it, and I'm saying like, oh, okay. What do I say to that? Do I say, is that a thanks kind of thing? I don't know. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.